The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and worlds. Yet on Earth there was only silence, a silence that was not natural, but forced, a silence born from fear. For many years the alien overlords, the Valorians, had ruled over humanity. They controlled trade, they controlled weapons, they controlled even the skies. Their ships watched from above like hawks over prey. Humanity obeyed, humanity bowed because to resist meant death. And so the people waited and endured. The Valorians were tall, silver-skinned and arrogant. They saw humans as weak, as nothing more than workers and servants. In their eyes, humanity was a broken race, fit only to mine, to build, to serve. At first humanity tried to fight, but the first rebellions had been crushed in blood. Entire cities burned as warning. After that, humanity grew quiet. But silence does not mean peace. Silence is only the surface. Beneath the surface, something dangerous was growing. In hidden basements, in deep caves, in secret bunkers, whispers moved from person to person. Whispers of resistance, whispers of freedom. A blacksmith in New Delhi passed coded messages in the handles of tools. A hacker in São Paulo spread data through old broken satellites. Farmers in the Midwest buried weapons under their fields. The Valorians thought humanity had broken, but humanity was only waiting. Patience was their shield. Memory was their fire. The breaking point came not with an army, not with a battle, but with a child. In the markets of Lagos, a small boy ran too close to a Valorian officer. He stumbled, dropped his bread, and looked up. The officer, cold and cruel, struck the child across the face with a weapon rod. The boy cried, blood on his lip. The people around froze. They had seen cruelty before, they had seen worse. But this time something changed. A woman shouted, her voice breaking the silence of the market. She cried, enough, and her voice carried like thunder. More voices joined, one after another, a wave of anger that could no longer be contained. The Valorian raised his weapon to silence them, but the crowd surged forward, 100 hands pulling him down, and for the first time in years, an alien officer bled in the streets of Earth. The news spread faster than light, not through alien channels but through human ones. Old satellites, secret radios, hidden networks all carried the message. A Valorian has fallen, the silence is broken. Across the planet, people looked at each other and knew the time had come. Leaders who had waited in shadows came forward. General Rahim in Pakistan, Admiral Carter in the Pacific, Commander Alvarez in the Andes. They all rose, and they all spoke the same words. The 6 days are coming, but why 6 days? Why not longer? Why not endless war? Because humanity did not want endless war. They wanted to strike fast, strike hard, and show the galaxy what they truly were. They knew the Valorians had power. They knew they were weaker. But they also knew something greater. Humans had unity when pushed to the edge, and humans had patience that, when broken, turned into fire. The preparations began. Deep beneath deserts and mountains, ships that had been hidden for decades powered up. They were not advanced like the Valorian warships, but they were clever. Built with stolen tech mixed with human ingenuity. Pilots, engineers, hackers, and soldiers all gathered. Men and women, young and old, ready to give their lives. They did not see themselves as soldiers of nations, but as soldiers of Earth above. In their orbiting fortresses, the Valorians laughed. They did not believe humans could rise again. To them, the market incident was nothing. A minor riot, a thing easily crushed. But the Valorians did not understand the human heart. They did not understand what happens when patience snaps. Every insult, every death, every humiliation had been stored inside humanity like a storm building. And now the storm was ready to break. On the eve of the first strike, the skies of Earth were quiet. But inside that quiet, fire burned. Children whispered to each other that freedom was coming. Elders prayed for strength. Fighters checked their weapons again and again. The clock was ticking and humanity had chosen the path. There would be no turning back. The first signal was sent at midnight. A single pulse through the old satellites, one word hidden inside the code, begin. And with that, humanity's silence ended. In 6 days the galaxy would remember this moment. In 6 days the Valorians would learn what they had awoken. The boiling silence was over, and the storm was about to begin. Night hung heavy over the mines of Titan. Saturn's cold moon. Humans worked there like shadows in chains, digging rare minerals for their alien masters, their faces covered in dust, their voices silent. For years, no one had dared to speak against the Valorian overseers. Their glowing staffs carried death with a touch, and their tall figures watched every move, but sparks do not ask for permission. They fall where they will, and one spark can burn the world. It began with a single human worker, a miner named Elias. His hands were rough from stone, his back bent from years of labor. One night, the Valorian commander struck an old man who had collapsed. His crime was weakness. His punishment was death. Elias stepped forward, without plan, without fear, his voice cutting through the silence. He said, "Not again." The overseer turned, silver eyes cold. The crowd froze. No one moved, for to move meant death, but Elias did not step back. He raised the mining drill in his hand, the tool of a slave, and swung it like a weapon. The alien fell, pierced through its chest, sparks bursting like fireflies in the night. For the first time in Titan's mines, the silence shattered. The humans erupted, miners shouting, chains breaking, the ground shaking with the force of their rage. The overseers fired their weapons, blue energy tearing through the dark, but the miners had numbers. The miners had fury. Pickaxes, drills, and bare fists became weapons. The tunnels of Titan turned into battlefields. The Valorians, surprised, began to fall. One by one, far across the system, hidden satellites caught the signal, a secret message buried inside the mining feeds. It spread across Earth in whispers, across Mars in broken code, across the moon in faint pulses. The message was simple, only 4 words. The fire has begun, in the underground bunkers of Earth. Leaders saw the message and knew the time had come. General Rahim leaned over the old holomap, his voice sharp. "This is it. They've drawn first blood. We cannot stop now." Admiral Carter's fleet began to move from the asteroid belts, cloaked ships powered by stolen alien cores. Commander Alvarez armed the hidden batteries in the Andes, old cannons reforged into weapons strong enough to pierce alien steel. The spark of Titan had become a blaze, and that blaze spread on Mars. Workers in the shipyard sabotaged alien cruisers, planting bombs in their engines. On Earth, hackers cracked Valorian data lines, filling alien screens with human voices shouting, "We are free." On the moon, hidden fighters rolled out of secret hangars, engines humming with stolen tech. The galaxy was shifting, and the Valorians had not seen it coming. But sparks are dangerous. They burn bright and they burn fast. The humans knew the Valorians would answer with fury. They knew their patience was gone. Yet no one hesitated, no one turned away, because after years of silence, even a single spark was worth dying for. The Valorians gathered their fleets, massive ships lined with silver armor. Their admirals laughed at the thought of human defiance. "Let them burn," one said. "They are children with stones. We are gods with thunder." But the humans had more than stones. They had fire, and fire does not fear thunder. In the days that followed, the first true battles began. Skirmishes in asteroid fields, ambushes in the dark void, human ships darting like wolves, striking and vanishing before alien eyes could follow. The Valorians cursed, frustrated, their fleets too slow, too heavy. Every attack left scars, every loss shook their pride. And everywhere, more humans joined. Farmers in Africa turned tractors into armored vehicles. Fishermen in Japan fitted torpedoes into their boats. Children carried messages through broken cities, their small hands holding the future. Humanity had stopped being afraid, and once fear is gone, nothing can chain the spirit. The spark of Titan was no longer a spark. It was wildfire. Every world, every station, every hidden corner of human life now carried the same fire. The silence of centuries was gone, replaced by the roar of a people reborn. But fire is a dangerous friend. It burns what it touches. The leaders of humanity knew this. They knew they had to move fast, before the Valorians brought their full fury. The plan was simple. The plan was deadly. In 6 days, they would show the galaxy that humanity was not weak, not broken, not silent. In 6 days, the war would begin. And somewhere far out in the dark, the alien admirals prepared their answer, their massive flagship moving through space like a shadow of doom. The humans had started the fire. But could they survive the storm that was coming? Dawn never came on the first day of war. Instead, the sky over Earth burned with hidden light. For years, humanity had buried its anger. For months, they had sharpened their blades in silence. Now the time had arrived. The first strike would not be loud. It would be sudden, sharp, and unforgettable. The Valorians had grown lazy. Their fleets were powerful but arrogant. Their commanders believed humans too weak to fight. Their ships drifted in orbit like kings on thrones. They did not notice the silence below. They did not see the storm waiting. At 03 hours, a signal whispered across old satellites, a single word repeated again and again. Sarson, every hidden base, every ship, every fighter pilot heard it, and in the same moment, humanity moved. It began not with guns, but with shadows. Hackers from Sao Paulo and New Delhi unleashed coded storms. Power grids across alien outposts flickered. Screens went black. The Valorian ships suddenly blind to the world around them. Then came the first strike on the dark side of the moon. Hidden cannons fired beams of burning light. The blasts ripped through alien patrol cruisers. Ships that once laughed at humans now exploded like fireworks across the night sky. The aliens screamed in confusion, their comms filled with static, their leaders shouting orders but no commands could pass. The human hackers had sealed their voices. The second strike came from the oceans beneath the Pacific. Submarines that had been silent for decades rose like predators, their torpedoes modified with stolen tech, cut through alien frigates. The sea boiled as fire met water across Mars. Workers who had long bowed their heads now lit the shipyards with fire. Alien war machines stood half-finished, and the humans burned them before they could take flight. Everywhere at once, the galaxy saw it. Humanity was no longer silent, humanity was roaring. The first human fleet revealed itself from the asteroid belt. Ships small but fast, engines humming with stolen alien cores. They struck in packs, wolves among lions, weaving between the massive alien warships, firing in quick bursts, vanishing before the Valorians could turn their guns for the first time in centuries. Alien blood spilled across the stars. The Valorians were enraged. Their admirals shouted that this rebellion would last only hours, that humans would be crushed before the second sun rose. But hours passed and more alien ships fell. Their pride began to crack. Their certainty began to bleed. On Earth, crowds filled the streets, no longer afraid. They shouted as human fighters streaked overhead, leaving trails of fire in the sky. The people who had once whispered now roared together. This is our day, this is our fight. But war is never clean. And war is never merciful. Alien bombardments answered the human strikes. Cities shook as fire rained from the sky. Towers fell, streets burned, yet even as people died, their spirits did not break. Every attack made them fight harder. Every loss became a reason to strike again. The first strike was not only power, it was message the galaxy was watching. And humanity wanted them to see. Humans did not beg. Humans did not bow. Humans fought, even when the enemy was stronger, even when the price was blood. In a secret command bunker beneath the Andes, Commander Alvarez stared at the burning skies on the hollow map. His voice calm but filled with iron. Day one has begun, and the galaxy will remember it. The battles spread across 6 fronts. On Titan, the miners who had begun the fire now seized alien supply ships. Turning their tools into weapons on Mars, the rebels captured the shipyards, raising the flag of Earth above the smoking wrecks. On Earth's seas, submarines clashed with alien carriers. The waters filled with fire and steel, and in orbit, human fighters swarmed like hornets, fearless, relentless. The aliens tried to regroup, tried to strike back, but their fleets were too slow, too heavy, too proud. Humanity had become something new, something dangerous. They were no longer prey, they were hunters. Every moment of patience, every year of silence had turned into this one storm. And the storm was only beginning. By the end of the first day, the sky was filled with smoke and wreckage, both human and alien ships drifting in silence. Thousands were dead, but millions had risen. The silence of centuries was gone, replaced by war cries that echoed from Earth to the edges of the stars. The first strike had been made, and it had struck deep, but in the distance, moving through the dark, the alien flagship stirred, its shadow vast, its weapons endless. The Valorians had underestimated humans once, but now they prepared to answer with fury, and as the first day ended, both sides knew the truth. The war had only just begun, and the fire of humanity was far from finished. The first day had ended with fire in the skies, wreckage drifting above Earth, smoke rising from the seas and cities, but humanity did not sleep. They had waited too long, and now they were awake. Day 2 began not with guns, but with silence, a silence so sharp it made the aliens uneasy. Their fleets drifted through the void, weapons ready, but there was no enemy to be seen. The humans had vanished, then the traps began. In the asteroid fields near Jupiter, Valorian warships pushed forward, searching for rebels. Suddenly rocks around them exploded. Mines hidden inside shattered the void, tearing through silver armor. The humans had turned the asteroids themselves into weapons. Pieces of space that once stood still now became blades. One admiral roared in anger, but before he could give orders, human strike teams darted from the shadows, small ships firing and vanishing into the field. The giants of the Valorian fleet died in silence. Cut down by ghosts on Mars, the battle was different. The red sand shook as humans lured Valorian ground forces into the canyons. The aliens marched forward, their machines towering like beasts. But the canyons were narrow, and from above came the rain of fire. Explosives hidden in the rocks. Triggered by farmers and miners turned soldiers, the canyon became a grave. The machines burned, and for the first time, the Martian sky was filled not with alien banners, but with the human flag on Earth's oceans. The second day was chaos. Alien carriers moved across the Pacific, their weapons striking coastal cities. But the humans had laid their own traps in the sea, old cargo ships packed with explosives. Disguised as wrecks, when the alien carriers drew near, the ships erupted, fire tearing holes in their hulls. From beneath, submarines rose again, their torpedoes finishing what the decoys had begun. The sea boiled red, and the aliens who thought themselves untouchable learned that even water could betray them. By day 3, the galaxy was watching. Other alien races who once ignored humanity now whispered in secret. How could a race so small, so broken, fight with such fury? How could 6 days change the balance of power that had lasted centuries? Some watched in fear, some in hope, but all watched. The Valorians grew desperate, their pride bleeding with every loss. They launched bombardments without mercy. Cities burned, millions died, but every death only made the humans fight harder. The Valorians could not understand it. In their minds, fear should have broken humanity, but instead it became fuel. Every family that lost someone became part of the fire. Every city that fell became a banner of rage. On the third night, Admiral Carter gathered his fleet. The humans were tired, their ships damaged, their weapons low. Yet he stood before his people, his voice calm. We cannot fight them with strength. So we fight them with mind, we fight them with patience, we fight them with fire. And his words spread across the fleet, across every hidden channel, giving strength to the weary. The battles grew stranger, more cunning. Human hackers turned alien navigation maps into traps, sending fleets into black holes and dead stars. Children in occupied cities painted symbols on walls, confusing alien patrols. Even farmers used their fields, flooding them to trap alien walkers in mud. Every human became a soldier, every street a battlefield, every star a weapon. But the aliens were not finished. From deep space, the Valorian flagship continued its slow march toward Earth, a shadow larger than mountains, its weapons older than empires. The humans knew it was coming. They could feel the fear in their bones. But they did not turn back. By the end of day 3, the war was no longer a secret rebellion. It was a storm across the stars. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not break, that they would not bow. The silence of centuries had turned into fire, and that fire now reached every corner of space. But the greatest test was still ahead. The flagship had not yet struck, and when it did, humanity would face a darkness unlike anything before. The first 3 days had been fire. The next 3 would decide if humanity burned out, or if they burned brighter than any star. The 4th day did not begin with victory. It began with screams. The Valorian flagship had arrived, a monster of steel and shadow, larger than cities, older than empires, its weapons glowing like suns. When it opened fire, the sky itself seemed to split over New York. Towers fell in flames over Beijing. Whole districts turned to ash. In Africa, deserts burned. In Europe, rivers boiled from the heat of bombardment. Millions died in hours, families crushed beneath fire. Streets turned into craters, oceans filled with wreckage. Humanity, who had risen with pride, now bled across their home. The human fleets tried to fight, their ships darting like wasps. But against the flagship's weapons, they were nothing. One beam destroyed 10 ships at once. One blast silenced whole battalions. The courage of pilots was endless. But courage could not stop a storm. By the afternoon of day 4, half the human fleet was gone. On Mars, the defenders held the canyons with fire and steel. But the flagship's bombardment reached them too, the ground itself shaking. The red dust filled with screams on Titan. The miners who had started the rebellion sent desperate signals. We are holding, but we cannot hold long. Everywhere the story was the same. Humanity was bleeding, and yet, even in the darkest hour, something new began to stir. In a secret bunker deep beneath the Himalayas, scientists worked in silence, their faces pale from sleepless nights. Their hands steady with purpose. They were building something impossible, something untested. Its name was Project Dawnfire. It was not a weapon like the aliens had. It was not size, it was not power. It was something else. A fusion of human will and stolen alien cores. A weapon that could burn brighter than stars for only a moment. But that moment, if used well, could end the war. Or it could end humanity forever. General Rahim visited the bunker on the fourth night, his uniform torn, blood on his sleeve, his voice heavy with sorrow. He looked at the weapon, a sphere glowing with unstable energy, and asked, "Will it work?" The scientists did not answer with certainty. They could not. They only said, "It must. Above ground the people suffered. Children huddled in ruins, mothers buried their dead, fathers carried weapons with trembling hands, but none surrendered, none begged the aliens for mercy. Because mercy had never been given, the pain became fuel. The grief became rage. Humanity bled, but humanity did not break." The Valorians watched from their thrones aboard the flagship, their admiral laughing. "See how they burned 6 days, huh? They will not last 6 hours more." But even as he laughed, the humans prepared the dawn fire, the weapon hidden in shadows, waiting for the right moment in the ruins of London. A young boy picked up a broken flag. Dirt and blood covering his face, he held it high. The image spread through the resistance networks. A child raising the human flag above the ashes. To the soldiers, it was a reminder. They were fighting not only for survival, but for the generations to come, and the message spread again. Across Earth, across Mars, across Titan, we bleed, but we fight. By the end of day 4, Earth was scarred beyond recognition. Cities were gone, millions lay dead. The seas burned. The skies choked with smoke. Yet the humans still stood, broken but unyielding. Every loss carved a promise. Every tear sharpened resolve in the command bunker. Commander Alvarez looked at the holomap, most of it filled with red alien controls spreading like fire, but in one corner glowed the secret signal of dawnfire, and he whispered, "If this fails, we die. If it works, we live." The fourth day closed with blood and ashes. The aliens believed they had broken humanity. They believed they had won, but in the shadows, in the silence between screams, a weapon waited. Dawnfire was almost ready. The galaxy had seen humanity bleed. Now it would see if they could rise, and in the distance, the dawn of day 5 promised either final defeat or the first light of victory. The fifth day began with silence, but it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence before a storm. Across the ruins of Earth, survivors looked to the sky, knowing this day would decide everything, and far above, the Valorian flagship drifted, its shadow covering continents, its weapons glowing. The monster of steel that had broken cities and burned oceans, inside hidden bunkers. Humanity's leaders gave the order. Dawnfire is ready. It must be delivered. It was not a weapon that could be fired from afar. It was unstable, alive, a burning core of energy that needed to be carried inside the heart of the flagship. And that meant men and women would have to go where no human had ever gone, inside the fortress of their enemy. The team was small, only 12, chosen not for strength alone, but for courage, for patience, for the will to die if needed. There was Elias, the miner from Titan who had struck the first blow. There was Captain Morgan, scarred from battles at sea. There was Hana, a hacker whose fingers had blinded alien fleets. Each carried a piece of humanity's story, and each carried the same purpose. Their ship was tiny, disguised as wreckage, drifting with the debris of fallen battles. As alien patrols passed, they floated silently, breath held, hearts pounding. Then the moment came. Their ship latched onto the flagship's hull, and they cut their way inside. The corridors were vast and silver, the air sharp and cold, alien runes glowing along the walls. Every step was dangerous. Patrols moved like shadows, weapons humming with deadly light. But the humans moved with patience, with silence, with fire in their eyes. For every guard they struck down, they whispered the same word. For Earth, at the same time the battles outside raged. Human fleets threw themselves against the alien wall. Not to win, but to distract, Admiral Carter ordered desperate charges. Ships colliding with cruisers, kamikaze runs that lit the void with fire. Every death bought the infiltration team more time. Every sacrifice carried them closer to the heart. Inside the flagship, Hana hacked the alien systems. Her hands trembling, the countdown began, not for victory but for survival. For Dawnfire would not wait forever. Its core pulsed inside its casing, light bleeding through, humming like a living heart. The team carried it into the central chamber, the very throne room of the Valorian admiral. He was waiting, A giant of silver armor, eyes burning with contempt, his voice echoing through the chamber. Humans, you are insects, and insects cannot kill a god. But Elias stepped forward, sweat and blood on his face, his voice steady. We are not insects. We are fire. The fight was brutal. The Admiral's weapon tore through steel. 2 humans fell in seconds, but the team did not stop. They struck from all sides, blades, bullets, drills from the mines, torches from the ships. Every tool of humanity became a weapon, every drop of blood a shield. At last the Admiral staggered. But even dying, he laughed. You will burn with me. And then the core began to hum louder, its light spreading across the chamber. The countdown reached its final minutes. The team knew the truth. Dawnfire would kill them too. There would be no escape, but none turned away, none ran. Because this was the price of freedom. Outside, the human fleets heard the signal. A final message from Elias, his voice breaking but strong. For Earth, for all of us, remember our fire. Then the line went silent. The last minute came. The humans stood together, facing the core as its light consumed the chamber. They closed their eyes. Some whispered prayers, some whispered names, but all carried the same thought. Let humanity live. And then Dawnfire exploded. The flagship shuddered, light bursting from its core, ripping through decks and engines. The giant vessel cracked like glass, its weapons silent, its pride shattered. Across the battlefield, both human and alien ships froze, watching the impossible. The flagship of the Valorians, the monster that had burned Earth, was breaking apart. The blast consumed the infiltration team, their names etched forever in fire. But their sacrifice gave humanity its first true victory. Day 5 ended not in silence, but in light. The galaxy that had doubted humanity now trembled, for they had seen a truth too bright to deny. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not bow. When cornered, humans unleashed fire that could tear empires apart. But the war was not yet over. The flagship was gone. But the Valorians were not defeated. Their fleets still darkened the stars. Their wrath still burned. Day 6 would come, and with it the final test. The 6th day rose not with light, but with ash. The alien flagship was gone, torn apart by Dawnfire, its wreckage falling into Earth's atmosphere like burning stars. But victory had come at a terrible cost. The heroes who carried the weapon were gone. Their names whispered in sorrow across the battered world. Humanity had won a battle, but the war still burned. The Valorian fleets remained, endless lines of silver warships stretching across the stars, their admirals furious, their voices filled with rage. They swore to drown Earth in fire, to erase humanity from memory, to make the galaxy forget that humans had ever stood, and yet, deep inside they were afraid, for the destruction of their flagship had broken something far greater than steel. It had broken their certainty. On Earth, survivors rose from ruins, scarred but alive. Children carried buckets of water through streets still burning. Soldiers helped strangers as if they were family. Families buried their dead but lifted their flags. There was no more division, no more nations, no more borders. There was only one name, one voice, one people. They called themselves humanity. In secret bunkers, the last fleets gathered. Admiral Carter stood with weary eyes, half his ships destroyed, the rest scarred. But his voice did not shake. We cannot match their numbers, we cannot match their power. But we will show them something they do not understand. We will show them that humans do not kneel, even in ashes. The words spread across every comm, across Mars, Titan, Earth, the moon, reaching every fighter, every child, every elder. It was not a strategy. It was a promise. Day 6 began with the final push. The Valorians unleashed their wrath. Fleets descending on Earth. Waves of fire raining from orbit. But humanity did not wait for death. They struck first from hidden mountain cannons, from sea launch platforms, from underground silos long thought useless. Weapons fired into the skies. Small human ships darted into impossible paths, weaving between giants, carrying explosives strapped to their hulls. Pilots smiling even as they burned. On Mars, rebels lit the sky with captured alien weapons, striking at reinforcements before they could reach Earth. On Titan, miners overloaded fuel stations, turning them into suns that consumed whole fleets. Everywhere humanity fought not to survive, but to prove that their fire could not be extinguished. The galaxy watched in silence. Countless species who had once ignored humanity now saw a truth written in blood and flame. Here was a race that had endured chains, endured humiliation, endured silence for centuries. But when their patience broke, They became a storm that even empires feared. By evening, the battles slowed, the stars filled with wreckage. Both alien and human, the Valorians, shocked by losses they had never dreamed possible, began to pull back, their admirals arguing in shame. For the first time in their long rule, they retreated, and when their ships vanished into the dark, the sky above Earth grew quiet. The war had lasted only 6 days. 6 days of fire, 6 days of blood, 6 days that would be remembered for eternity. Humanity stood broken yet unbroken. Their cities scarred, their oceans burned, but their spirits brighter than any dawn in the ruins of New York. A child climbed the remains of a tower, holding high the flag of Earth, its fabric torn, its colors burned, but still it waved. People across the world saw it and they wept. The galaxy whispered a new truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not broken. Humans were not slaves. They were patient, yes, but when patience ended, their fire could shake the stars. The 6-day war became legend, a warning and a promise. A warning to those who thought humans could be chained again. A promise that when the final sunrise comes, humanity will rise with it. And so, as the smoke cleared on day 6, the first light of dawn touched Earth once more. It was not a dawn of peace, for wounds still bled. It was not a dawn of certainty, for enemies still watched. But it was a dawn of respect, of unity, of strength. The final sunrise of the war became the first sunrise of a new humanity.